The value of mentoring is huge because none of us have all the answers, but we are surrounded by people who do.
It's Wednesday, and the window is open. In this extended conversation, Andy Lopata and Dr. Karla discuss how professional relationships build trust and advocacy. Let's listen in.
I have coached a few people who have never had a mentor in their entire lives. They go their whole time and they say, I'm just fine. But what would you say the value is of mentoring? How do you convince people that it's necessary, or is it even necessary?
The value of mentoring is huge because none of us have all the answers, but we are surrounded by people who do. Now, whether those answers are the right ones for us, whether it's just a different perspective, whether it's a different experience, it's information that helps us make a more rounded, create a more rounded response and decide on the route forward from a more informed position. So mentoring is essential. There are various statistics we quote in the Financial Times Guide to Mentoring, such as people who are mentored are 5 times more likely to be promoted than those who aren't, according to some microsystem survey. In the same survey, really interestingly, the people who mentor other people are 6 times more likely to be promoted, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, you have to look at context within these statistics because the people who are mentored are more likely to be on a fast track program to promotion. So there are caveats within there, but there's truth within it as well. The business owners who are mentored report a 70% increase in productivity as a result of mentoring. That's from another survey. So the stats are out there that show the value of mentoring. One of the biggest challenges to organisations at the moment is retention. And when you look at Gen Z workers, see, I'm putting that into American language for you. I would normally say Gen Z.
Thank you.
But very conscious of it. But when you look at Gen Z workers, I won't do it with soccer and football, by the way. It is football. When you look at Gen Z workers, typically, and I am generalising here based on research, but typically they stay in employment now for 2 years on average, but 5 years if they are mentored. So there is an organisational imperative to provide mentoring as well as an individual imperative to seek it out.
You mentioned networking too, and the importance of that. What's the difference between professional connections and networking?
In truth, there's no difference. I avoid using the word networking because of how it's perceived rather than because of what it is. It's perceived in different ways by different people, but some of those perceptions include it's something for more junior people. It's perceived as selling. And going out and doing what I call the networking dance, where one person asks the other person awkwardly, what do you do? The other replies with their carefully rehearsed, carefully crafted elevator pitch, boring the other person for 60 seconds. And then at the end of the 60 seconds, that other person they wait for them to say, and what do you do? So they can give their elevator pitch. Pre-COVID, they would exchange business cards. That perhaps happens a little bit less these days. And then they go away and never talk again. That's a negative perception of networking, but it's prevalent, and a lot of people just don't like the thought of it. You mentioned the term connections. The term I use is professional relationships. Okay. And professional relationships can be forged in formal events like conferences and networking events, or they can be the result of a conversation on LinkedIn, just straightforward outreach as you did to me, an introduction from a colleague, meeting personally but finding you have professional interests in common, a whole range of reasons. I'm going for an Indian meal tonight with a group of friends that are formed around meeting people through work. But we all live locally to each other. So there's a blurred line between personal and professional life as well, and personal and professional connections. But the beauty of it is that you are creating a network, hence it is networking, but you're creating a network of people who are in a position to help you when you need that help, who hopefully will want to help you because you're building deeper relationships and know how to help you because you're communicating the right things in the right moments. And that's the term you use, connections, I wouldn't use as often in that sense. I use that my business strapline is connecting is not enough, because we need to go deeper once we've forged that connection. But it's understanding the strategic reason to have those relationships in place.
One of the things that I work on with a lot of organizations is building a sense of community within the organization. And this is definitely one realm that plays into that, is building those connections and really, um, how do I, it's that getting that deeper level of connection versus being just somebody who passes by in the hallway. How would you suggest people build that relationship and make it even deeper?
Well, we have to start seeing relationships or networks in a different way. So at the moment, we typically think of networks as binary. You're in my network or you're out. And that's what leads to the lack of follow up. We connect on LinkedIn and we don't have a conversation. For example, we meet at an event and we don't you don't follow up. We don't build anything out from there. So I wanted to reframe this, and I created the 7 stages of professional relationships. So the 7 stages of professional relationships focus on the journey that people go in on their relationship with you once it's established. So we meet at an event. If we meet again next week, you'll probably recognize me, I'll recognize you. But what about in a month? What about in 2 or 3 months? What about in 6? At some point you fall out of that network. So we need to start to go through the layers. So we get from where I recognize you to where I know you, to where I like you and trust you. Know, like, and trust you'd recognise. Bob Berg coined that, the author of The Go-Giver, and Endless Referrals. Then you get into what I call the sweet spot, the supporter and advocate. A supporter is someone, if you picked up the phone and asked for their help, they'd be happy to help you. An advocate, you don't have to pick up the phone. They're talking about you when you're not in the room. And then we can move into friendship. But if we recognise that we can take people on that journey through those relationships rather than just meeting someone, having a conversation and only going back to them when we need something, you're going to build a much deeper network where people genuinely want to help you, and it feels natural when you need to ask for something rather than awkward.
I think the timing's really important too. There's been a lot of studies that talk about touch points and how many times you need to be connecting with somebody. And I think it's really important to value that and understand, yeah, that once in the hall doesn't work. It's in order to go through those different levels, as you mentioned, it does take some time.
Yeah. I mean, one of the main tips I give in terms of building deeper relationships is consistent and frequent interactions. And there's just a couple of things here. I heard years and years and years ago, I've never been able to pin down its original source, a wonderful technique for following up when you first meet someone. So I shared with you separately the 7 stages of professional relationships, the journey we go on as we build deeper relationships. We need to build a wall around the outside when we first meet people. To do that, 24/7/30. Follow up after 24 hours, again after a week, again after a month. You've built that wall and people will remember you, and you can then go deeper in the relationships. 3 2-way interactions as well, preferably in different environments, not just 3 2-way LinkedIn conversations, but something slightly different to that and creating some variety in there. But the consistency and frequency continues after that. And I think my golden rule here is that 80% of your outreach, we all love Pareto principle, 80/20 rule.
Yeah.
80% of your outreach should be about the other person, not about you. So you're investing in that relationship so that if you need to ask for something or tell them something about you, you've earned the right to do so. Is